It all begins with a happy, perfect, and smiling Lambert family moving into their new home. The family consists of Josh, who is a teacher, Renai, his wife who writes songs, and their 3 kids. One of them is young Dalton, who remains critical most of the time, and the other 2 are Foster and Collie. Their peaceful existence ends when something really terrifying begins to haunt them. After the Lambert family moves, Renai takes a look at her old album, which contains different pictures, like her and Josh's wedding picture. Dalton sees his mother going through the album, so he decides to join her too. While looking at the pictures, Dalton realizes that there are no childhood pictures of his father and asks his mother the reason for it. Renai lets Dalton know that Josh was always careless with his childhood pictures, which is why there aren't any left. Renai then places her album back on the rack and gets busy with different household chores. After finishing up her work, she finds all of the books on the floor, and it looks as if someone has thrown them down on purpose. Renai believes it was done by her kids, so she scolds them, but in reality, something evil did it. The next day, Josh leaves for work, and after cleaning the house, Renai starts practicing piano and singing, her favorite hobby. She places a baby monitor on the top of her piano, so that she can hear if her little child, Collie, wakes up. A few minutes later, while Renai is still practicing playing piano, she hears Collie crying loudly. Renai rushes towards her bedroom and tries to calm Collie, but Collie continues to cry. At night, the attic door opens on its own when Dalton is playing with his toys. This draws Dalton's attention, and he goes towards the attic. Dalton decides to climb the attic ladder so that he can switch on the light, but while climbing the ladder, Dalton falls down hard. After falling, Dalton finds a horrific figure on his left, and he begins to shout at the top of his lungs. Upon hearing him shouting, Josh and Renai hurry toward the attic. Dalton explains that he screamed because he just fell from the ladder and hurt himself, refusing to acknowledge what he just witnessed. Josh leads Dalton to his bedroom, and Renai is shocked when she finds the box of music sheets in the same place where Dalton fell. What's interesting is that she had been looking for those since the morning. Renai finds all of this very unusual, but she doesn't let it bother her too much. The next morning, Josh goes to Dalton's room to wake him up for school. Dalton doesn't wake up at all, though. This worries the parents, and they quickly take their son to hospital. The doctors tell Josh and Renai that Dalton has gone into a coma, and they will try their best to find the reason behind it. After multiple checkups and tests, though, the doctors are still mystified. Josh and Renai are left devastated. After 3 months, Josh and Renai have taken Dalton back home, but Dalton hasn't recovered, and his condition hasn't improved at all. This is the point where things begin to get more serious and horrific. One day, Renai is practicing piano again. While practicing, she begins to hear creepy sounds from the baby monitor. The sounds gradually increase, and suddenly Collie starts crying loudly again. Renai runs towards Collie's room, but there's no obvious reason for the disturbance. After this, Foster asks his mother to change his room because Dalton sleepwalks at night, which scares him. Renai is confused as to how that could happen, considering Dalton is in a coma. At midnight, Foster wakes up and sees Dalton sleeping. The sight makes Foster fearful, and he shuts his door. Upon closing the door, he hears someone coming out of Dalton's room. A scared Foster hides in his bed. Josh and Renai are in their room when they hear a knock at their main door. Josh looks out of the window, but finds no one outside. Josh activates the security alarm and returns to his room. The security alarm triggers, and Josh finds the main door open. Collie starts crying, so Renai hurries to Collie's room, where she sees a strange man behind Collie's bed. Renai screams and calls Josh. Josh runs toward the room but can't see anyone there. The mysterious man has disappeared. Josh checks all the doors, and when he reaches the main door, he finds it open once again. Josh, a little confused, closes the door again, checks the whole house, sets the security alarm, and goes to bed. The next day, a doctor shows up to check in on Dalton, but his condition hasn't improved. During the checkup, Renai discovers that there are bloody handprint stains on Dalton's bedsheet. This makes Renai very worried, and she calls Josh and explains the whole situation. She also mentions that mysterious things have been happening from day one since they moved to this house. Renai thinks the house is cursed and doesn't want to stay there anymore. Later, Renai goes to bed and dreams that Dalton has woken up with a demon. She finds handprints on the window. Then, she sees a dark shadowy figure walking outside. This figure suddenly enters Renai's room, which scares the life out of Renai, and she wakes up screaming. The Lambert family decides to move again in the wake of all these strange events. Really, who wouldn't? Lorraine, Josh's mother, also joins them and helps Renai in packing. Lorraine gets a little surprised while looking at a picture of Josh with his family. Despite moving to another new home, Renai feels something strange in the new house as well. She looks at the house from the window outside and sees the ghost of a child. This is the first time she has encountered a strange thing in her new home. Renai observes that doors are opening and closing on their own. The ghost then goes toward Dalton's room. Renai chases the ghost, who hides in the cupboard. When she opens the cupboard, the ghost runs and disappears. This makes Renai very afraid once again. She tells Josh all about this, terrified that the demon hasn't left them. Renai also contacts a priest. Lorraine, at this moment, also agrees with Renai's take on the supernatural occurrences that are happening. In the evening, the Lamberts have dinner, and Lorraine announces something which shocks them all. She also had a dream. In the dream, there was a demon in Dalton's room, And when she asked the demon what it wanted, the demon simply demanded Dalton. While revealing this, Lorraine suddenly sees the same demon behind Josh's back and gets really frightened. While this takes place, strange voices begin to come out of Dalton's room. Josh, Lorraine, and Renai all run toward it. When they reach Dalton's room, it's a total mess. Nothing is in its place and Dalton is lying on the floor, still in a coma. Everything is scattered and it looks like someone other than a human has made a mess. This scares the whole Lambert family. They decide to call a paranormal expert, Elise, a friend of Lorraine's. As soon as she visits Dalton's room, she feels the presence of something demonic in the room. She looks straight up towards the ceiling. She sees something and starts describing the creature. Her assistant starts to draw what Elise is describing. Finally, the sketch of the demon is drawn. It's a big red and black figure, horrifying and scaring the whole Lambert family. Elise then asks Renai and Josh to listen to her carefully. She explains that Dalton isn't in a coma or anything else. The reason for Dalton's condition is his matchless trait. A quality of Dalton attracts demons towards him. And due to this trait, Dalton's spirit can easily move toward another state without leaving this world. Elise also mentions that Dalton's spirit is trapped in a world where spirits reside. This means that Dalton's spirit has moved to a purgatory state. Therefore, strange events will keep taking place, and changing houses won't make any difference. The house isn't haunted, but Dalton is haunted, therefore demons will follow Dalton wherever he goes. The demons are doing this so that they can get a hold of Dalton and do witchcraft on him. She also mentions that they have been trying for a long time to get a hold of Dalton, as witchcrafting human beings are not easy, even for demons. Therefore, Elise and her team need to be quick. This worries and terrifies the Lamberts, but they agree and allow Elise to do what she wants freely. After hearing all this, Josh goes to Dalton's room and asks Dalton to give him a hint if he is listening. Suddenly, one of the paintings falls down and Josh goes to have a look at it. Most of Dalton's paintings show a red-black shadowy figure. Josh realizes that this black shadowy figure drawn by Dalton is actually the demon who wants to practice witchcraft on him. The shadowy figure which Elise's assistant sketched is similar to Dalton's drawing. Therefore, Josh realizes that Elise is correct about the witchcraft situation. Elise and her partner arrange a setup at the Lamberts' new home in order to contact Dalton's spirit. They use astral projection to communicate with Dalton in the further realm. Dalton is able to hear their voices, and is also able to respond to Elise's questions. Dalton expresses that he is afraid of a demon whose face is full of fire. Dalton also mentions that he is scared to talk properly to Elise, as he is fearful that the demon will hear their conversation and will not be happy with it. Suddenly, the frightened Dalton says that the demon has heard their conversation. Everything Dalton said has been written down by Elise's assistant. It's a difficult process for Elise too, and she is continuously shaking during the conversation. The moment Dalton says that demon has heard them, paranormal activities start to take place at the Lamberts' house. Home decorations start to fall, things begin to float in the air. Suddenly, Dalton comes out after rising from his bed and hurls everyone surrounding him to the walls. Everyone gets terrified after seeing Dalton right beside them. While this happens, all the other creepy and scary demons also appear and can be seen in Lambert's house. One of the demons catches Renai and scares her. Josh quickly pushes the demon aside to rescue Renai. The demon picks up Josh and throws him away with ease. Elise grabs Dalton and tries to take the demon out of him. Suddenly everything stops and all the demons disappear. Dalton falls to the ground, still in a coma. This event is recorded by Elise's assistant, as they placed cameras before they started. These are special cameras that could capture the demon behind Dalton. The film is shown to the family, and it clearly shows the demon making Dalton throw things with his supernatural powers. After this, the Lamberts are now even more scared, as the demon has control of Dalton. It is at this moment Lorraine makes an eye-opening and stunning revelation. When Josh was 8 years old, he would hesitate and get scared when it was bedtime. Josh told his mother that there was an old lady who scared him. Josh was terrified of that woman, but Lorraine never believed him. The outcome of this ignorance was that whenever Lorraine took pictures of Josh in his childhood, the old lady would appear behind Josh every time, which was the main reason for Josh not having any childhood pictures in the album. The purpose of that old lady was similar to the reason for the demon stalking Dalton today, to use Josh for witchcraft. Elise shows them some childhood pictures with the old lady behind Josh. To counter this problem, Lorraine sought help from Elise. Elise did her job very well, as the old lady wasn't able to take Josh's spirit into a purgatory state. Elise rooted out all the horrible thoughts from Josh's memory, which was the reason Josh didn't remember anything, but Josh is still scared of photography. Elise then explains to Josh that only he can help Dalton, as Josh can protect him by going into a purgatory state. She also warns Josh that he should keep this a secret, and that he belongs to this world, as demons exist in a purgatory state and could also possess Josh. Josh decides to take this step in order to save his son, despite his old fears resurfacing. The purgatory state is a creepy and mysterious place, more like a nightmare for humans. Josh encounters dozens of demons. Terrifying music also makes Josh tense, but he stands his ground bravely as he wants his son back. After encountering many demons, Josh finds Dalton locked and chained on a bed by the demon. They both embrace each other, and Dalton tells Josh he is imprisoned. Josh quickly frees Dalton from the chains, but the demon notices it. The demon attacks Josh, but Josh somehow does his best to protect Dalton and manages to escape. Josh is surrounded by many demons, and they won't let Josh go back easily. Renai feels something is wrong, and she starts to call Josh out of limbo. Josh, in a purgatory state, grabs Dalton and leaves him at the house, urging him to find his body. Dalton flees immediately. If he is able to find his body, Dalton will be able to come out of the purgatory state and return to his world. But the demon won't let Dalton find his body that easily, chasing him down. Meanwhile, Josh encounters the old lady that haunted him during his childhood. Josh screams at the old lady to go away and leave him alone for good. Josh also lets the creepy old lady know that he isn't afraid of her anymore. Josh and Dalton find their respective bodies, and both of them come to their senses. The demon wasn't able to get hold of Dalton. Everyone rejoices, and is pleased to see Josh and Dalton come back to the real world. Dalton is perfectly fine. Lorraine, Josh, and Renai hug their beloved son. Josh is relieved that the demon didn't get the chance to practice witchcraft on his son. Elise and her partners are also relieved. The paranormal team begin packing their stuff so that they can leave to find another case. Josh also returns his childhood pictures to Elise, as he confronted that lady and doesn't want any bad memories to stay with him. Lorraine and Renai then head to the kitchen so that they can spend time with Dalton and give him something to eat. While taking back the photos, Elise notices something odd in Josh's hand and takes Josh's picture. Josh gets furious, to the point where it feels like something demonic has possessed him. The old lady may have possessed Josh's body, and this was what Elise warned Josh about earlier. Josh's spirit is entangled in the other world. Josh attacks Elise and strangles her. During this, Renai hears the screams and comes out of the kitchen to check what's happening. Reaching the other room, she is horrified to see Elise's body on the sofa. Renai doesn't find Josh in the room, and she begins to call out his name, looking for him everywhere. Having not found Josh, Renai wonders if she is encountering something new now that Dalton has returned. She picks up the camera and sees the photo of Josh, which is actually the photo of the old lady's spirit in the camera. Suddenly, Josh appears from behind Renai and calls out her name in a horrifying tone. Renai looks back and gasps. The movie ends here, but it seems like the horrifying story of the Lamberts isn't over yet.